So we're doing like an open MC, I see here, two people. So I think everybody here hear about, all kind of investing, early stage. I see this conference as something very global, and I think the first take is the fact that people have to realize, especially when you're here in the Ukraine, that the competition is not local. The competition is global, meaning it's not that you're competing against people here in Ukraine, you're competing against doing product that will be globally. And I think that's one of the approach that we want to showcase here as someone that came from Israel with a very strong ecosystem and community. So we'll start telling you a little about what we're doing, and then we'll do the good, the bad, the evil of early stage startups. So we're Elevator. We're an investment vehicle in early stage startup. We breed talent and elevate it to the next level. Elevate offer early stage startups capital, mentorship, sponsorship, and we help provide the gap between Israel and global markets. Israel is a place where you have only 8 million people, meaning no market basically. So everything that we're trying to do from the get-go is global. So far, take it back. So far we invested in 15 companies. 85% of them have raised additional capital. We have a couple of companies that are negotiating right now to be acquired. And we're just launching a new batch in 2 weeks with 12 new companies. So Elevator, in a couple of words, we're a 5-month program. We provide $20,000 and $180,000 worth of services. We're very, very focused on product building and market access. Basically meaning we're taking all of our companies to the market that we try to provide. We have a custom-made roadshow in New York where we take all the companies to meet partners, investors, and basically start their relationship. We're also based on milestone investment, meaning we're not a typical accelerator, but basically a hybrid between a seed fund that uses the accelerator program basically to de-risk their investments. Elevator is vertically focused. What we have realized in the last 2 years is accelerator is not good enough. People need more money. They need to bridge the gap between seed and an A round, and most of the time they will not be ready. It happens because the competition is that fierce. There is so many people competing and doing the same product, and so many talent is out there, which this is something we see here as an explosion of global entrepreneurship. So what we've realized that we should build a professional network around each one of the verticals that we want to focus. The first one, the one that we started, is media, internet, and e-commerce in general. That's what we basically started in our first program. And we tried to leverage as much of the talent that exists right now in Israel. Cybersecurity, because of the army reach out and the universities in Israel, is something that is very strong. This is something we're also working a lot around it. Basically, sometimes taking colonels back from the army to civilian lives to take the know-how that they learn and basically commercialize that. The third vertical is financial technology, which is a very interesting industry right now that is just ready to be disrupted. And this brings me to the next idea of workflow that we're creating, which we call the corporate garage. We have realized after many times being reached out by the big corporates that are around that they have a major problem right now in producing innovation. They have no ability to keep talent because right now, I think in a way that, as global entrepreneurship became so strong, if you're a talented person, you're very much likely not to want to invent something inside of a company. The risk to leave your company is very small right now, and your ability to execute something is very fast, which makes this corporate very much paranoid about what's going on around them because they're determined of growth in terms of innovation, and innovation is something that most of the time comes and kill what they're doing. I think financial technology is one of the most critical ones because financial technology, banks, and financial institutions are basically very much a middleman. And what startups are very good at doing is killing the middleman. So we've provided basically a partnership with the biggest financial institution in Israel, taking their resource, their mentorship, and their capital to basically produce innovation that they will become a first client to do so. Basically taking their leverage, but bringing that to the entrepreneurship life and using their capital and resource to take it to the next level. That's what we call the corporate garage. We're going to do the same with the cybersecurity. Our idea is basically to create a de-risking environment both to private investors and both to the companies by getting a validation from the market that the problems that they're trying to solve are real problems. The last thing that we're dealing with in our ecosystem is education. After meeting thousands of companies on a yearly basis, because that's the amount of deal flow that Israel has, we have realized that there is a big gap in education of entrepreneurship. This is something we can see here from conversation that we're having with people. And education is something that, for entrepreneurship, is something that you cannot learn in the universities. When a cycle of innovation goes every 6 months, college is 3 years, most of the people, relatively, that finish higher education are not even equipped to have a decent job in the tech industry. So we are taking this sort of elements of an execution vehicle and basically providing a platform for Entrepreneurship 101 to teach and breed this talent and use it as a feeder for our companies. The second thing with education that we're doing is education placement. After we realized that the tech industry, even in Israel, have the ability to hire in a day 100,000 more people, but there's no one to train them. So we're basically coming to the biggest companies in Israel saying, what exactly do you need? What are you going to be hiring in the next year or so? We're trying and building with them mutual courses that will take this to the next step. So a few words about the world that we're coming from. You probably heard it or you didn't. It's called Startup Nation. And there's a good reason for that, because Israel right now, per capita, is the most innovative place in the world. Most of the products and most of the startup, most of the venture capitals represent are in this place. On around 8 million people, this country have built something that is only based on technology in terms of growth. So, take it back. So, a few things that I think should be spoken about when sitting in an international place that is not the US is the fact that Israel has a couple of characteristics. The export market, we only export. We have no one to sell. We have no corporate culture, no biz dev or salesperson. Our only ability is to build a global company from the get-go. No consumers. Israel, it's an interesting point because Israel has no consumer mindset. Until recently, we couldn't even buy a song in iTunes, but we have provided the largest acquisition in the history in application when Google bought Waze just recently. Just meaning that innovation sometimes comes when the conception is far away. It's a very risk-taking culture. This is something that I think is the #1 drive for entrepreneurship as we're going around the world and we're seeing new ecosystem. In Israel, the idea of failure, it's almost on a daily basis. Venture capitalists will invest in an entrepreneur that have failed. We will meet people who have failed because we know that they have learned, and the culture embraces failure. And last but not least, nobody wants to work in a company. Everybody wants to work for the world. We actually have an inflation of too many companies. It's almost impossible right now to find a CTO in Israel because every tech guy is starting a company. We meet on a daily basis, grandmother, uncle, everybody has an idea, just for you to realize the culture. Next. So the good, the bad, and the unknown from our perspective in early stage startups. So we look at these 5 verticals that we judge as we're doing our investment. We're looking at team, idea, timing, obstinacy, which is basically stubbornness, and capital. And we're going to talk about each one of them. All right, so team. I'll go and say this cliche, but because this cliche cannot be farther from the truth. Our investment as an early stage vehicle is only about a team. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that no one knows what the company will actually and eventually end up doing. Right now, the statistics say that when a startup is being acquired or being successful, he has pivoted 2.5 times, which means in our mindset that the only thing that we basically have is the ability to see this team and have the ability to build a global company from the get-go. No consumers. Israel has no consumer mindset. It's a very risk-taking culture. This is something that I think is the #1 drive for entrepreneurship as we're going around the world and we're seeing new ecosystem. In Israel, the idea of failure, it's almost on a daily basis. Venture capitalists will invest in an entrepreneur that have failed. We know that the culture embraces failure. And last but not least, nobody wants to work in a company. Everybody wants to work for the world. We have no consumers. realize if they can pivot, if they can change it, if they have the right skill in-house. So for us, an A team, 2 technical co-founders, basically a strong tech side in-house. Today we're looking also in design and UI, UX, also in B2B products, an experienced and target market co-founder, and someone that comes from the industry or the problem that they're trying to solve. A B team, just for example, it's 1 co-founder. Just for the understanding of the ability, when there is only 1 person in a team, it means psychologically it's almost impossible to actually bear the burden of building something. There is so much pain, there's so much trouble, there's so much frustration. You need someone to talk to, and more important, you need someone to give you like feedback for that. So when speaking about a team for us in early stage investment, especially right now as the cycle of building products is something that can take 2 to 3 months, we're looking at our ability as an early stage vehicle to recycle talent. Meaning, we sometimes will not even care if you come to us with no idea. But if you come from a strong industry, with a strong background, and we know that most of the skills and capabilities we will have in-house, we will feel very comfortable to take the journey with you because we will understand that we have ability to recycle the talent. So that's why we're right here, team. That's for us like the #1 element. We also had just like, for example, an experience to take an idea, a company that came to us with an idea that we didn't like, and we funded that for a pivot, telling them, okay, this is not a real problem you're trying to solve, but our ecosystem that is built from corp dev and a lot of experienced mentor are coming saying, listen, go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, and start the iteration from something that we really realize is a problem. Next. Idea. Many people, as the ecosystem that they're coming from, are not that mature coming. I have an idea. Would you sign an NDA? I don't really want, I can't tell you. It's a secret. Our perspective about that, that's bullshit. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Each one of us here has an idea. Everything that we have in a startup is execution. Ideas are changing. They can be good. They can be bad. It's not even relevant. You can see a couple of examples here. Apple happened because Steve Wozniak didn't have a computer. He wanted a new one. Google, Larry and Sergey couldn't find what they were looking for. And Hotmail because they couldn't send emails to each other. Basically, smart people realizing that there is a strong need and a strong problem, and they're realizing what they're doing. I think right now one of the key elements that we're seeing in global entrepreneurship is a lot of people chasing problems that basically don't exist, or on the contrary, problems that are just not worth enough to solve. If something is working, it just doesn't mean it should be better. Everybody are trying, to find solution for text messaging, but text messaging works. You text each other. So we all the time look at the delta between how something is functioning right now, and even if you can do it better, if the pain is not big enough, especially when looking at a B2C consumer product, people will not adopt it. People have, you heard the angel investor here saying, we have 1 minute to look in an application or a business plan. That's basically the amount of noise that consumer has. You have 1 second to attract the sound of someone to download your app. And if you're asking him after he downloads the app to actually use it, it's another ask. So realizing if people as consumer don't have a problem, understand that and don't attack that. Timing. That's, I think, another critical point that we know about early stage. Launch fast and fix mistakes later. As we're working on platforms that all the time iterate themselves, like, for example, most of us are innovating to distribution channels such as Facebook, such as Twitter that are already exist. Our goal with our companies as we're building our product is basically launch as fast as possible. See what the consumer is saying. We don't know. You don't know. Most people don't know how these things...
I think no one knows.
No one knows what works in the end of the day. Your only ability to know, and we have right now these tools of marketing, is just launching something and seeing if it sticks. And another thing, I think another consumption that is worth talking about timing is the fact that startups all the time, when one of the major questions that we ask is about how is your go-to market? You have a great product, you have a great idea, how are you going to bring And I think that's the benchmark right now, especially if we're talking to B2C product. How are you going to bring 10 million users with no marketing dollars? First question. And most people coming and telling us, we're going to buy it, if you don't have organic growth, you're not really growing. This is fiction. Companies that are raising money are raising money to scale their business. Scaling your business is basically taking your ability to create a customer acquisition funnel.
After you have a sustainable marketing funnel, meaning you work on a funnel that is actually work, you put $1 in and get $1.50 out.
That's the only way it could work. Or if you're doing a B2B product, go and see if what you're selling is sellable. There's so many ways to validate what you're doing these days that just sitting at home, like we spoke about the idea earlier, and not telling anyone your idea will basically leave you in the same place. So taking something out, iterating that, and moving through change. Your startup is going to constantly change, no matter what you do. Facebook is constantly changing. Twitter is constantly changing. So as a startup, you live on a constant change. Next. All right, open your eyes. That's also, I think it sticks to the timing and the idea. Most people are falling in love with their ideas. It's especially happening when they don't tell it to nobody. So nobody tells them it's a bad idea. As more people as you're going to come and say, they will say, okay, this is not that good of idea. Sometimes you don't want to hear it. And one of the things that we teach entrepreneurs in-house is just let go. Maybe it's not working. Failing fast is critical. You don't want to be wasting investors' money. And more importantly, you don't want to be wasting your time. Although the ideas sound brilliant, maybe it's not the right one. As I said, companies pivot 2.5 times for every success that they're making. So having the perspective from the get-go that this is just something that you're starting to do, meaning that I think the mindset as people, as entrepreneurs, should be, I'm going on a journey. I want to solve problems in this sector. I think I have the skills, the ability, and the team to attack this sector. That's it. That's the right way to go to the journey. The idea and the product will all the time let go. This is just, go back? All right. Capital. Every company, and we're coming from a mature ecosystem, every company that goes to our door have the same ask. We need $500,000 to develop our product. And then we go to the same journey and showing the papers, and we see that they really don't. This is like every mother comes to their son and telling them, go raise $500,000. That's the right seed amount. And it's not. And people don't realize right now that you have the ability, and we see it every day. Companies are building products with no money. Yes, it's possible. If you understand what you're doing, you can build your company and go until a stage where you have users, you sold something, and you didn't raise any money. Meaning you didn't dilute yourself, meaning you don't have people that are coming and expecting you to bring your money back, and you have all the control in your company. Validating your company on a cheap way is something that the tools that entrepreneurship and venture capital have provided. You go and you ask. You have the idea to vet. That's part of the platform that we have built. So we know that if we're going to be selling a financial tool to a bank, we come and ask the bank, will you use it? Will you understand how to use it? Do you need it?
Will you pay for it?
Will you pay for it? Most of the time, they will say no. It doesn't mean that they necessarily will not have it, but we need to understand where the market is. Go back. We're saying talent is money. Most of the people that are coming, sometimes they say, we need to pay salaries, we need a CTO, we need a product, we don't know how to pay them. So we're saying raising talent, same thing as raising money. Talent worth money. If you have the ability to raise 2 super talented technical guys, you just raise $150,000. You have your capital. You don't need to outsource that. One of the things that investor hates is the fact that the money that you just raised is going to be spent on service providers that their incentive is basically to take your money. they're not vested in the future of your company. They're vested in their bottom line of their revenues.
And actually, what that really means is that your company is a one-trick pony. If your first product is going to work, that everything will be fine. But if it's not going to work, and statistically say that 2.5 times you're going to change your product, meaning you're going to end your money too soon without having any product on the market that people actually use.
So raising money from many people, meaning two things. You owe money to a lot of people, and there's the investor that invested in your company are not real. Their interest is not really vested in your product. Taking $20,000 or $50,000 from 10 people, meaning that their management attention is not worthwhile for their investment. So find strategic investors, find people that you really believe in you, and as little as possible that will make you control your company in a much easier way. And this is also critical for you want to be changing your direction as you go. And if you have too many investors, or too many people that think they understand what they're doing, and this is something that bad investors sometimes, don't realize, they will not let you change your idea or move with your company forward.
And even if they let you, it will be harder for you because now you're trying to explain to them why you're really changing the direction that just a month or 2 months ago you sold them, and it's going to be very hard for you.
Last but not least, if you're going to do it, you better be all in. The first and most critical is the full commitment. Not doing that on the weekend and after hours, not leaving your job. If you're going to do that, take the risk, go all in. When you do it 150% of your time, it's hard enough to succeed. When you do it 50%, it's almost impossible. I don't know any companies that have built when someone was afraid to take the risk of leaving their job. So if you're going to do it, leave your job, and if you're going to fail, fail fast. And that's the last one that we like to say to our entrepreneurs. If they won't kill you, you will win. And this is, I think the right statement, because entrepreneurship, it's all about killing the entrepreneurs. It's like a video game. Everyone's trying to kill you every day. When you have no money, when your product sucks, when they tell you you will not succeed. But if you will keep doing and you'll keep going through the journey, Uber, if you probably know, I met the guy, 6 years he was living in his mother's basement until Uber actually succeeded. You have tons of these stories, meaning if you decided to do it and become an entrepreneur, just remember that it's all about not being killed in the journey. Thank you.